All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
Thank you all. Well, I'm overwhelmed by your recorded applause on a Monday after the 4th of July. Kim is here, and
Kim,
all is right with the world. Tony is here as well,
Tony.
and I am flying today because we got great guests. Gary Dietrich, bottom of the hour, and John Aravosis joins us in hour 2. Come on. He's a TikTok sensation, that guy. Washingtonian insider. He'll give us some insights into what is going to happen in the wake of the passing of the Trump legislation. Also, in this nascent stage of a third party, perhaps, another viable political party created by Elon Musk. Might it happen? You're right. Nascent is a ding word. And I would also mention that Karen Dawn joins us today. She joins us on the first Monday of every month. And she has some interesting news about lab animals that kind of caught my eye too. And it's not a bad story, okay? I want to warn you of that or apprise you of that ahead of time. Also, my friends, I'm compelled to tell you, because I think you may notice at some point in my presentation, should I falter, that I am in incredible pain right now.
Oh.
My back has, I've had a major back episode.
What?
I know. I thought of turning the show over to Kim. I thought, I'll just leave the cake baked. Kim will serve it.
Ooh, it's a wild idea, but it just might work.
May have to happen tomorrow, but today I'm toughing it out. I've got our show today and then on to KFI Radio. There's a lot going on, and I am lowering my head, and I'm going to get it done, everybody. Yes. Hopefully the 4th of July was good. Kim, I want to hear about the most American of July 4th. That comes out of your small, beautiful town that you live in Northern California, about, what is it, you say 45 minutes north of San Francisco?
Yeah, about that. Mm-hmm.
And you have all the small town stuff. You had a parade of some kind probably on the 4th of July?
No, we have our parade on Veterans Day.
Oh.
We have a huge Veterans Day parade in Petaluma. 4th of July, I don't think we have a parade, but we have town fireworks.
Oh, that's very, that's very Americana.
Mm-hmm. And we had a little gathering at the house for the family, so it was good.
I'd like to, as I often do, say something that will turn the entire audience against me right away, which I like to do. Yes.
All right.
I'm not a fan of fireworks anymore.
I know. Because of the animal thing, right? They freak out
animals. And honestly, the discharge of all of that, and in a major city, LA, San Francisco, etc., you can even see them, all of these illegal fireworks displays. Yeah. And what happens is the air just gets filled with this sulfur and all these toxins and awfulness, and all the stuff that drops down onto the ground, so it hits all the little critters too. So it gets into the soil and everything. It's a bad idea. It was great back in the 1800s, but now we have drone shows that are super cool. So again, this isn't a popular position. I'm and what it does to the dogs and animals is just, we talk about the dogs because those are the domestic creatures that we see. But imagine those creatures out who are just hearing this and they're just running. They have no idea what's happening. I mean, it's really disturbing. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but look, they're gorgeous, and the professional, computerized, synchronized fireworks. I'll tell you who loves fireworks without even knowing. Tony. I promise you he loves them.
Every bit of them. Every bit of it. I love it. It's my favorite day of the year.
Right.
I have so many illegal fireworks in my neighborhood. It was just like a full invasion all night. It was my favorite day of the year. And my dog loved fireworks. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she just like this the whole time.
Oh, wow. That's extraordinary.
So
Your,
in that,
was,
my
that
dog.
was,
actually-
your dog
she-
was deaf, is what you're telling
No,
me?
no. That's what dogs should go like ba 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 ba, and then another one back, she'd go ba ba ba, and then she'd get tired of it and just sit by me and just relax. It was great.
Wow.
I love my
that's
dog.
wild.
My dog was
All
great.
right, well, there you go.
Thanks, Tony.
That's a different position.
Yeah. My dog is
Anyway.
also not affected by fireworks. She just doesn't react one way or the other. But that's not the case for many animals.
Oh my God, it's a horror show for a lot of animals. But anyway, I hope everybody had a good 4th of July. You know who had a great 4th of July was my Lord and Savior, Donald Trump. He, with the divine powers imbued within him by all that is holy, he was able to harangue, pressure, and threaten enough Republican senators to get his gorgeous legislation that rips health care away from 17 million Americans who are, I mean, they're economically pressured to the point that they need the Medicaid help. And now they'll have to get to GoFundMe like every other American, my friends. That's right. Because the people that Donald Trump golfs with, hangs out with, the sponsors of so much when it comes to legislation across the board in Washington, they wanted their tax cut and they were going to get it. And I don't want to hear about the Medicaid, blah, blah, blah. States are going to go under, blah, blah, blah. People are going to die, blah, blah, blah. They didn't, that's their, they tune that out, turn that off while they pushed that incredibly stuffed, toxic bill through Congress. It happened at the 11th hour. Trump saying, I want it by July 4th. Why did he want it by July 4th? For no reason at all. And isn't that Donald Trump straight through? Wall to wall, baby. Got no reason. Think it'll look better. If I get it by July 4th, it looks better. I can make the announcement. I like to make announcements. If you're new here, I don't do a Trump impression. I just do him as kind of a gangster, sort of. Here's what happened. Go ahead, Tony.
Gentlemen, our president. It was the most significant legislative win for President Trump yet.
And tonight, here I am. Okay, promises count.
On Independence Day, signing into law the cornerstone of his domestic agenda.
It's the biggest bill of its type in history.
Republicans celebrating the sweeping legislation.
This big, beautiful bill fulfills all the promises in the America First agenda.
But getting it over the finish line took arm twisting and deal making. Hardline Republicans initially balking at the price tag. The nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office projecting that the bill could add $3.4 trillion to the debt over the next decade. Senator Rand Paul joining just two other Senate Republicans to vote no.
This is not a fiscally conservative bill. And if you're someone who thinks the debt is a problem, I don't see how you could vote for this now.
The bill fulfills some of the president's key campaign pledges, like no taxes on tips and overtime. And it extends Trump's 2017 tax cuts at a cost of $4 trillion, much of that going to the wealthiest Americans.
Just as I promised, we're making the Trump tax cuts permanent and delivering no tax on tips, no tax on overtime.
The bill dramatically increases funding for immigration enforcement, allowing the administration to nearly double immigrant detention capacity and allocating more than $100 billion to ICE and border enforcement.
If you're for a secure border, safer communities, and a strong military, this bill is for you.
It also guts Biden-era clean energy protections and student loan forgiveness programs. And the legislation may have far-reaching consequences for some of America's most vulnerable populations. That's because to pay for it all, the legislation slashes the nation's safety net, including the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program known as SNAP. As of March, more than 42 million Americans participated in the program, which provides crucial nutritional assistance to families with low-paying jobs or people with disabilities. And despite promises from the president not to cut Medicaid,
Here's what I want on Medicaid. We're not touching anything.
But we're not cutting Medicaid. We're not cutting Medicare.
the legislation hits the program hard, estimated to cause 11.8 million Americans to lose their health insurance over the next decade.
Make sure your voices are being heard.
Republicans claim they're looking to root out waste, fraud, and abuse within the program imposing new work requirements on able-bodied recipients 19 to 64. But according to experts, the added paperwork and applications may lead to eligible Americans losing coverage.
This all-out assault on health care in this country. Hospitals will close. Nursing homes will shut down. People unable to get the care that they need.
Even some Republicans calling it a mistake, warning it could backfire in the midterm elections.
It is inescapable that this bill in its current form will betray the very promise that Donald J. Trump made. You supporting the Senate mark will hurt people who are eligible and qualified for Medicaid.
For This Week, Rachel Scott, ABC News, Washington.
That's all I need to see there. Thank you. That gives you an overview, but even in that summary, there is a sort of glossing over of a lot of the specifics so that Trump, for example, can take this victory lap and he can say, I paid off on no tax on tips and this sort of thing. But as we know, the devil really is in those details because the tax on tips is a very low number. There's a very low minimum. But again, when it's reported, it's just reported as no tax on tips, and it becomes one more line item that's just sort of summarized in that brief network package. I guess what I'm trying to say with this point is that I believe that the true heinous nature of this act is covered by the generalities and the massiveness of it. So when you're doing a TV package on it, you just almost can't get in to all of the specifics. She did a nice job, I thought, of talking about the fact that the environmental aspects of this bill are truly gruesome. I mean, there is a complete detachment of this country from the rest of the world, which is going toward green energy, alternative energies, and a future that reduces fossil fuel production and consumption. This bill literally just takes us back toward 1955. I mean, it's a weird, that's just the environmental part of it. Then, as we mentioned, some of these other aspects of the bill just leave you in the sense bereft of government help. So many in this country require some small supplements, some require large supplements, some require a total rescue from the federal government for any number of circumstances around which they have no control. So look, the guy is a master legislator from the standpoint of, running America like a mobster. And you will do this or you will pay the consequences. It's LBJ who used to harangue various legislators to get votes back when he was president, but it's that times 10. I mean, it's almost, as I say, kind of like a mob boss president. So the other most disturbing aspect of this is this immense amount of money that's being poured into the Department of Homeland Security and ICE. Here it is. Justin Garner said it. We now have the largest secret police force on the planet. It's sickening. It really is. Sickening is the right word for what's happening with this increasing police force. The one that doesn't identify themselves. They have no real markings. We don't know whether or not they're legitimate or they're just a bunch of dudes who got dark clothing and a white van and are loading people in. The official ICE officers, they do enough damage. And so you never even need to get beyond the fact that now this force is going to be expanded. It is going to be additionally militarized as we do everything. And then it's going to be turned loose on the streets of America. I think it's despicable. It's un-American. It is a misguided policy. I think even those who voted for Donald Trump, who wanted to see some management of the border in a more responsible way, although, of course, that border legislation was ready to go 8 months before the election, but Trump derailed it because he wanted to use it as a political pawn, and he did. But I think even those who voted for Trump for that reason would be hard pressed to say that they're okay with what's going on the streets of America now with these ICE detentions. And the arrests themselves, while heartbreaking and awful, and I think way out of bounds, going to Home Depot, Lowe's, kids' high school graduation, going to the courthouses, that's their new thing. These are immigrants who go for their court-appointed hearing to see to their asylum or on their way to a green card or green card renewal, whatever it might be. And they're picked up there. I mean, that is, it penalizes people who are lawfully trying to do the things that you're talking about. That is to say, a lawful entrance into this country and proceeding through that entire legal process. But it's also, it's despicable. It rewards really and incentivizes lawlessness. Don't go to the court. Don't get into America and then don't go anywhere, because they'll arrest you at your court case.
Yeah.
And then, of
When
course,
you're trying to follow the law and you get busted for trying to do the right thing.
And of course, the deportation then to a third country of which you have no understanding, no connection, right? It's that, of course, just legalized by the Supreme Court. That's not part of this bill. But the supercharging of DHS, that is part of this bill. And who's in charge of DHS? I mean, Kristi Noem, and Homan takes a bunch of it, right? He's the big, he's doing the heavy lift in terms of deportation, and Stephen Miller as architect. What else do you have for me, Tony? Wes says, will they cut off people who are in mid-care like cancer patients? How do you prove to Medicaid that you are eligible? No one talks specifics. Oh, they'll most certainly cut you off in mid-care. I don't know specifically, as you don't either, but I promise you, these are draconian cuts. Look at what happened in every other part of government up to this point that has been cut. They've cut things in the middle of scientific research on cancer, in the middle of research projects on Alzheimer's, in the middle of environmental projects, 5 years out. They just pull the plug, pull the funding. It's done. Trump made a ton of promises in campaign, has only kept one, says Debbie. Quote, I will be a dictator on day one. Supposedly for one day. He lies about that too. Yeah, I mean, to be clear, the policy is enhanced, I suppose, by the dictatorial powers given to Trump by the Supreme Court, but Trump didn't take those powers. I mean, in other words, this bill, I've just told you how awful I think it is, but it wasn't dictatorial. He leaned on these legislators and made them vote for it. And then finally, they gave Lisa Murkowski everything but a family picnic to get her to vote for this thing. They gave all of these gifts to Alaska. And that's the way business can be done in Washington. It's really one of the worst things about the way business is done in Washington. But back to Trump. So it was Trump's awfulness, if you will, that may create this environment. I'm not a Trump fan. I think he is a pernicious force on government and American life. He's enabled, I think, hatred and a kind of legislation that reinforces hatred. You see it even with the excesses of wokeism and DEI. If you want to get into that world, you can see how this breaking back against it is really fueled by a kind of hatred and resentment. And I just see that as a sad chapter in American history. But again, a lot of what's happening with Trump is owing to his strength. He is fearless about using his power. He will use it against you in every way possible. He's cowed academic institutions. He cows the media. He cows the legal system, all of those attorneys and law firms that he went after, and now they're doing, they couldn't wait to surrender and do that pro bono work for him. So it's the atmosphere and environment that has been taken advantage of by this guy Trump, and now he's feeling it because he just passed this big legislation. He's got a lot of power. I'll talk to Gary about that. I don't want to get to Gary without at least touching on Texas. There were all those sweet souls lost in that flash flooding. It happened so very quickly. This is 5 minutes. Look at this time lapse. 5 minutes passes, and watch this river and watch this overflow.
Wow. That's crazy. That happened so fast.
This is just 5 minutes. This is how quickly the rain was falling, how intensely this entire thing swept through. Now, and I'm going to talk to Dietrich about this as well. I mean, I'll touch on it. But the reality is, I believe that, there's a lot being made, and I know it's being made if you want to kind of, if you want to talk teams, like my team, their team, the MAGA team and the anti-MAGA team, I suppose you can do that. So I know my team, the anti-MAGA team, the traditional, oh, look, it's the cuts that did it, the left. There are good reasons to be very concerned with the cuts to the National Weather Service with NOAA. I've had a lot of experience with both those organizations, as you know, and I'm not sure, to be fair, that my team calling out their team for those cuts on this situation really is applicable. Meaning, and Kim, you'll correct me, maybe you've read more about this than have I, but I don't think that the cuts to the National Weather Service were the reason that this community was inundated in a way that they weren't warned. Now, were they inundated by way more water than they were warned about? I mean, I'm hearing that from sub-public officials, but looking back at the forecasts, it looks like meteorologists were telling local officials that there was going to be this possibility of flash flooding, and there were even warnings about enormous rain levels and rain accumulations. They're saying that the follow-through from the Texas Division of Emergency Management, that from other local officials, that wasn't there. Forecasts aren't enough. I mean,
you can do the forecast, but you have to be able to get the forecast to the people who need the information. And according to the New York Times, the reduction in staffing meant there weren't experienced people there to reach out to Texas officials to say, hey, this is happening.
I see.
The meteorologists say, we did our job. We accurately predicted that there might be flooding here, but we could never have predicted the severity of this type of flood.
Yeah.
But as far as there being enough people to reach out, which apparently normally happens, the New York Times says that's where it fell short.
And there is this in San Angelo, Texas, which serves some of these hardest hit communities. There is no permanent meteorologist in charge. The Austin, San Antonio office, also serving these flooded communities, is missing its warning coordination meteorologist and a science and operations officer. So these would be the people in liaison roles from the National Weather Service to local authorities and emergency managers. So what Kim is saying really does, I think, maybe carry the day. That these cuts, they didn't affect the meteorologists doing the forecast. They affected the administrative aspects to this entire apparatus that would have gotten the word out. So
89 people so far, 89 people with more missing. And I read this morning that Laura Bush, the former First Lady, was once a counselor at one of the camps where so many campers are missing.
It's so sad. I don't understand why the camp was so close to the. Maybe it wasn't it? It was in that.
In the flood
riverbank
on the floodplain with a history of flooding, and so you wonder. But this camp was 100 years old, and so maybe many years it was fine, but this area has flooded before. I don't know. It's really
Maybe
sad.
Gary Dietrich will have answers for us.
Yeah.
All right. Let's.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Thank you for being here, everyone. And yes, I wanted to mention that if you would lift your cup with me and toast to a post 4th of July meeting with one of my favorite political minds. Yeah. You can get coffee just like Daddy has at CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. And CoachellaValleyCoffee.com has some great 4th of July specials. It's all organic from women-owned farms. It's a boutique roastery. Everything's hand-roasted. These are fresh beans, new product. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. I want you to remind me to send some to Gary Dietrich, if you would, Kim. I want Gary to sample the sweetness, the magic that is Coachella Valley coffee. It's not right that I should have it without Gary having some also. So, Kim, I'm counting on you to remind me at the end of this program that I have to get some to Gary, all right?
Just a quick aside, I served the iced tea, and I have like a drink tank. I served the vanilla iced tea and the hibiscus iced tea on July 4th, and I had people asking me about the tea. I gave the spiel. I made sure everybody had the discount code. I felt like a drug dealer. Like, here, let me start you on it.
That's very funny.
Yeah.
It is CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Get the vanilla tea just the way Kim has. Do use our discount code just the way Kim does. Mark T, 10% off anything on the site, CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. All right.
The Mark Thompson Show.
This guy is the political analyst across the iHeart radio stations, also on CBS television stations across America, and with us on Mondays, the great Gary Dietrich. Hello, Gary.
Mark, I can't thank you enough for the egalitarian wishes that I share in the bounty of Coachella Valley Coffee. I'm just going to say this because I love you and Kim to death. You guys know that. I dropped this little hint sometime way early in this year. Geez, it'd be really nice to taste that stuff. There was never anything in my postal box. So thank you so much. Thank you so much to Kim, the Northern California, obviously now marketing director for Coachella Valley Coffee, giving her party offerings. And I will look forward to that. And you know me, Mark, I will tell it like it is. If that's the sweetest coffee ever known to mankind, you will hear that from this very voice on this very program.
Well, I will get you the kind that you like. You like rich, bold, full type coffee taste experiences, or do you like something a little smoother, like a morning blend? I don't hear him. What happened?
That's when I typically imbibe.
What? Say it again, pal. You dropped out. What?
The morning blend is when I typically imbibe. That's when the caffeine is a must. So
Okay.
that would be deeply appreciated. And I want you to know, I will make sure that happens on Monday mornings going forward.
All right. This is great. All right. So you shall receive. You shall receive.
Thank you, my brother.
Now, I'll start with the legislation and the legislative accomplishment. And then I want to get to Elon Musk and the third party or fourth party or independent party, however we're counting. But first, it was an artificial deadline that Trump set out, this July 4th thing. But like all things that he states and all of these decrees that he states to a Congress, which is walking as best they are able in lockstep to please the supreme leader, I'd say they did a pretty good job of twisting arms and rushing, despite the fact Democrats, to their credit, did their best to kind of slow things down. But they got this whole thing across the finish line by the stated deadline.
Yeah, Mark, I'd be remiss, by the way, not to point out, I really hope we can touch on Texas. I do have some specific knowledge and experience in those areas, and so that would be helpful to your audience, I think, if we could do that during our time together today. As far as Congress goes, and look, people on both sides of the aisle, Democrats, even Democratic strategists over the weekend were marveling that this thing got done by July 4th. I was saying it was likely to happen because this is, as I have said several times on your show, This is the one big shot for Trump. I mean, this is the bill. This is why this was people wondering, why is this such a big deal? And why did they call it the one big, beautiful bill? It's because of the nature of the reconciliation process. It's why the parliamentarian was involved. They had to get as much as they could jammed into this one bill to avoid the ongoing Senate threat of a filibuster, okay, which of course now people know takes 60 votes to break, which Republicans do not have. That's why this was so imperative from a policy and a political perspective. Had this not passed, or would it not to have passed, it would have been seen as a major political and policy disaster for this president. So that's the backstory. Now, getting it done by July 4th was actually quite remarkable on many people's fronts, especially the fact, Mark, that it went over and got changed substantially in the Senate and then came back. And despite all the protestations and threats and everything else from House members, not a single word was changed. Why? Because that would have meant it had to go to a conference process, be hashed out, could take weeks, may kill the entire bill. So that's the politics behind it. I mean, most people believe it was a masterful job of politicking. The only one that I've seen comparable, Mark, who could pull this off was the notorious California Assembly Speaker Willie Brown, who had this kind of political sway over his caucus. It was remarkable. I was working in the California legislature at the time when he declared himself the quote unquote, in his words, Ayatollah of the legislature. And he used to be able to pull this stuff off remarkably with all kinds of stuff, moving members of the legislature up to fifth-story offices that were literally broom closets with one staff member. He would do this kind of stuff all the time. I have never seen this kind of political sway outside of that.
I mean, is that political strength then that and power that is unleashed in the way both Trump did it and Willie Brown does it, or did it?
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, pre-Gary Dietrich's knowledge of politics intimately, because I was about 6 years old, Lyndon Johnson reportedly had this kind of sway in the U.S.
I mentioned Lyndon Johnson in the first half hour, but I think this takes Lyndon Johnson to another level, Gary.
Well, I think it does. And the reason is because Trump as president and as head of this MAGA movement has the ability, as Willie did. I mean, I was working on campaigns when I would see Willie Brown's people come in and basically take over, you know, and like, we are going to run this operation. And conversely, for those who, you know, who would dare cross him, it was known to everybody in the Capitol, they were gone. The next primary, Willie was going to make sure they did not survive. That's the kind of political power that Trump now wields again. And I'm not being, you know, overly dramatic to seem that Willie Brown is the only other political leader in my 35 years in politics I've seen have that capacity.
Doge says D-Spirit was a wasted effort that resulted in many people being fired to save cost, only for Trump to run up the deficit in one sweeping move. All consumers will be impacted and cut back. Depression. It is odd that there, and I've always said it, you know, Trump, his whole approach is not underpinned by any political philosophy. He is there. I think it's a policy of self-enrichment. He likes, he has a very black and white view of the world. He likes these tariffs. We can get into that. I think in the weeks to come, it'll become a little more apparent. But to this viewer's point, you made such a big deal about deficit and budgetary spending and sending Doge loose through government. And then you put this thing through. This is at odds with all of that.
Yeah. Mark, you may remember when the whole Musk Doge thing really started out. I shared with you, I'm like, what is this? Okay. Because I mean, Trump railed against the size of government and all this stuff, you know, in very Reaganist kind of fashion. The government's the problem. But Doge, you know, took over the spotlight. I mean, almost for months, as did Musk as the personification of it. And I said, this was not a huge part of the Trump campaign platform. What is Trump doing here? Well, I think what's happened is now we're seeing, and I had a feeling this might happen, that was nice kind of bluster out of the gate, but that is not really, you know, it caught fire, but the forest never really burned down, right? I mean, that was sort of the Trump-Musk pledge, was that we were going to wreak havoc. There have been some major changes, and there have been some big cuts, and people, of course, identify USAID as one of those, and there's been others, but it has not been the thoroughgoing ravaging that Musk certainly envisioned. And now the fact that even this morning, the Trump-Musk feud is now new gas is being thrown on that fire. And of course, we may have time to talk about the new party, the America's Party starting. What is that actually going to do? Is Musk going to primary people, and could that affect Trump going forward? I mean, I just think the days of the Doge heyday are over.
Yeah, it was a brutal run, though. And the agencies that were dismantled, as you suggested, exceeded just USAID, went after EPA, went after, he went after he went after the IRS and Social Security Administration, and even got into the Treasury. But the layoffs were in the tens of thousands, as you're well aware. So there really was damage done. And NOAA, I mean, this is all stuff that and NWS, National Weather Service, which is becoming more relevant, and we will get to Texas in a second. So they did a lot of damage. I'd suggest that even if you just follow the order in which they worked, they were going after agencies that had a regulatory issue with Donald Trump, with Elon Musk, Gary, again, I don't want to get too deep into this, but just look at the order of things. USAID, EPA, and IRS, all three had major regulatory moves, and they were flexing against Elon Musk, and Musk essentially said, hey, we're going to end it right now, and he did. So I think that dictated priority anyway.
Well, here's the interesting thing now, of course. Trump threatening last week, hey, we may have to just really examine those Musk contracts. And I think Trump is serious about this. I mean, there may be some comeuppance for Elon Musk that's beyond the fact that his Tesla stock is now struggling, the image of his company, and he personally. And let me just throw something in parenthetically right now about this America's Party thing from a political perspective, okay? And somebody that's worked on campaigns from legislative to presidential. You even if you have hundreds of millions of dollars, you've got to have a constituency that's going to stick by your side. And I wonder now, who is that? I mean, the liberals don't trust Musk anymore. They loved his Teslas back in the day, but that was 18 months ago, right? They don't anymore. On the right, he's had some adherents, but, you cross Trump and the MAGA movement wants no part of you. So I just wonder, where is the base constituency for this party that's going to be in any way substantial? Could it potentially influence individual House elections next year? Yes, it could take in some purple districts 5%, 10% of the vote and affect those races. But in terms of its longevity possibilities, finding a base for it right now in the current American political milieu, I think that's going to be a tough slog.
I think this is really intriguing, and I hope we talk about this more in the months ahead, because the victories to which you've just referred, they could be the momentum that a party begins to, again, a nascent party begins to get. And with that momentum, then you get people jumping on. I mean, what really is as I was saying before, the political philosophy of MAGA? It's, I don't know, it's whatever you want it to be, because it's not GOP. I mean, this bill is not GOP. It's got a bunch of GOP signatures, but you see my point. I wonder if the success of those races that you're talking about, because they could be significant in terms of shifting power in Washington, if those won't be enough to animate the Musk party in some way.
Yeah, well, that's an excellent point, Mark, because Elon over the weekend started drilling down in this whole thing. Because, look, let's just be clear. Ross Perot made this abundantly clear, but others have tried as well. Staging, for example, a national third-party candidacy. Hey, RFK tried this last year. Remember how difficult it was to get on all 50 state ballots? It is a Herculean task to run a presidential contest as a third party. However, Musk identified over the weekend, we're going to start with individual congressional races. And this could be the MAGA/Trump Achilles heel. If, to your point, they pick out, say, 6, 8, 10 races and just pour dollars and volunteers and attack ads starting early in some of these races, and not take control of the House, but force the GOP to relinquish control of the House, that would be a major political feat and something that Trump would never forgive him for. And the danger in that becomes this. Okay, so you prevent the GOP from hanging on to the House. Then what? Okay, 18 months from now, then you've turned control of the House to the Democrats. How does that fit with the Musk philosophy? I'm just saying, if you try to game this out over the next 18, 24 months, it's a odd political chess game.
Yeah, and the Musk philosophy itself is confused because you do need Democrats if you want those EV incentives, if you want alternative energy offsets. I mean, all of these subsidies that really survive administration to administration and help Musk survive, they are going away under this administration, under the Republicans. So you need the Democrats back if you want to breathe. Now, we're talking about billions and billions and billions of dollars, right? So that's significant economic incentive. But to your point, then at the end of that, where are you left? And the wrath of Trump could be really intense. And if he, as you say, if he really follows through on getting rid of, somehow deporting Elon Musk or in any way messing with his subsidies, I don't think he'll deport him, but I think he could really mess with his government subsidies. That is, I would say, a kind of hard-knuckled politics that we've not seen. I mean,
I think that's quite likely, frankly.
Wow.
I think, certainly the examination, possibly the termination of SpaceX contracts, the electric vehicle, subsidies you've already talked about. There's just a whole host of things. There could be IRS investigations. There could just be a whole host of things that could really affect Musk going forward. And I don't know where this is going to end up. Right now it looks like a political blood feud. We'll see where it ends up. But you can bet your life that if he, kept the GOP and Trump come November of next year from doing anything of consequence in the last 2 years because the House flips, Musk better have some very strong guarantees from the Democrats in the House that they're going to try to restore those cuts, because otherwise he's not going to get a thing from the Republicans and MAGA and Trump and the GOP going forward.
All right, quickly to FEMA. Federal Emergency Management Agency activated yesterday, deploying resources to Texas first responders. A major disaster declaration issued by Donald Trump, and U.S. Coast Guard helicopters, planes aiding in search and rescue efforts. But there are plans, of course, to cut back the federal government's role in responding to natural disasters, leaving states to bear more of this burden themselves. That's the way Trump sees it. Smaller federal government, and you states, you can work it all out. I wonder if you can speak to what's happening now in Texas and put it into some kind of perspective for us as far as government assistance is concerned, too.
Okay. Mark, I'm going to tick down some things real quick here, okay? First, it has to be first. This is a tragedy. Little children hanging onto each other's hands, trying to survive. Looks like now there's going to be over 100 deaths when it's all done. I've been in many disasters. I've been to floods, hurricanes, fires all over the country. Disasters are the singular most unpredictable, chaotic environments that are the most difficult to predict and deal with. Let me say one quick thing about prediction. ABC is now reporting this morning that they typically had 2 meteorologists. This is ABC's report in the San Antonio office, and they bumped that up to 5 before this disaster. So I don't know where this is going to all end up. Of course, the finger pointing is all there now, but you have 3 things in a disaster. You have predictability. You have sort of what is going to be, the forecast. How do you build resilience in beforehand? Secondly is response. What is that going to look like? And the third is recovery. And really these last 2 are going to be the ones that are looked at very carefully about FEMA. And this is going to be a test case. I've said for a long time, and the Clinton-Gore administration, if people remember the images, the flooding of the Mississippi River, the Missouri River, out in a rowboat in the middle of the water, I've said for a long time, California governors are very aware of this. Right now, Gavin Newsom is. How you respond and recover from disasters is the single most political, vulnerable thing that you will face as a chief executive. And so, hey, George Bush learned this the hard way with Katrina. Remember with FEMA, Brownie's doing a great job, he said to the FEMA administrator, and that cost him dearly. That is political capital for George Bush. So this is a big, big thing for Trump to deal with. He's going to be scrutinized very heavily, given what you were talking about in terms of the potential FEMA changes. This is a critical moment for Donald Trump's political capital, as well as for, and I will say this very sincerely, an apparatus that is absolutely vital in the United States, and that's federal, state, and local cooperation on disaster resiliency, recovery, and response.
Yeah, I think that states it so well. I mean, one of the strengths of a strong federal government is right here. When communities clearly overmatched by weather, natural events, are also overmatched by the vastness and intensity of that natural event, such that they need federal assistance. You know, I see the same thing, frankly, with people who are overmatched by any number of physical infirmities they get, or the kinds of life challenges that they squarely gave their best to try to meet, but now they need help. And that's why I support programs that lend a help to them. That's why I support programs that have just been cut by this bill in Washington. But I also feel as though FEMA, to get back to the thing that brought us to this point, is required. Federal emergency management that is administered in a solid, professional way is the only way you get these communities out of the jam they're in.
Yeah, and when you talk about the scale of some of these things, I mean, sounds weird, but this is relatively small, of course, compared to a major hurricane or a Hurricane Katrina, which I've been to. I will tell you this, this thing about the uniqueness of what this event is like. I was down speaking at a conference outside of Austin at a major conference center up on these bluffs. In the middle of the night when we arrived, a major thunderstorm. And I mean, I got Kansas roots, so I've never seen anything even like this that I experienced. And I, nature boy that I am, I'd happened to take a walk along these bluffs the evening before the thunderstorm when we first arrived. I don't know, the creek was maybe a couple feet deep. Mark, I went out the next morning after these thunderstorms, and it was 20 to 30 feet deep.
Wow.
The next morning. So this is real. This hill country issue in Texas is real. And this is going to be scrutinized. Our prayers and thoughts certainly go out to the families. I certainly hope in the end, as always happens, the after action report yields some important, results that will help prevent a tragedy like this as best we can going forward.
Sure. And this speaks to staffing, and it speaks to our ability to follow. And a lot of that's been affected by these huge cuts, DOGE cuts, and elsewhere. Rich says air traffic control systems can be understaffed and airspaces can become congested, creating potential safety risks that need to be addressed proactively. Yeah, you see this draining of manpower from so many of these government agencies that are really required just to keep things kind of running. And then you have an inflection event like this, and this is where we end up, Gary,
Yeah. Well, I think that, all the cuts, all the changes, by the way, is, some of those cuts have been dulled by every one of them will face a lawsuit, and some of them have been higher backs. I mean, even at the National Park Service and other things, there's higher backs going on, right? With some of these people. We'll see. We're going to know a lot better in 12 to 18 months, Mark, truly and honestly, what the actual true long-term effect of these cuts are going to be. But you can bet your life, these members of Congress are going to hear about it. They're going to hear about it even after this event in Texas, not just Texas representatives. And people, to your point, Mark, expect their governments to be efficient with one thing. That is protecting them, whether it be from a strategic military point of view or police and fire at the local level or whatever it is. Protection of its citizens, especially the most vulnerable, is in most people's minds job one for government.
It's interesting, too, to think of the biases that I see with the culture, and it's reflected in the current administration. I feel as though if these flash floods, hurricanes, and such fires, if they wore camo and they came in planes, that's the America that's ready to take them on. We're really militarized now with this is my sense of it. I always bounce this stuff off of you, but we have a sense of the threat being something that we've got to, armor up for. We need more planes, we need more guys, we need more bullets, we need more camo, we need more night vision. That's the stuff we do in America. The real challenge for America comes from these other things, these natural disasters, fires, floods, handling the way the climate is changing, being prepared, warning systems, competent administration. That's the real challenge, far greater than the former.
Well, I think, you know, the challenge that every president of the United States faces is a very delicate and sometimes very difficult balancing act between domestic priorities and international priorities. And Mark, we've talked about this, and I don't want to get off on a tangent on this today, but there are clear strategic threats at the international level. And nobody can deny the fact that China, Russia, Iran, some of these other actors, North Korea, are in their own ways threat to the United States as well as our allies and others. And you know, so you know, we have the Ukraine-Russia thing still out there. I mean, there's a lot of things that an American president has to juggle, but you cannot neglect one for the other. And that is always the challenge and the political mistake that people will make. Well, this is what's important. That is not important. You know what? The reality is, from a political sense and also from a policy perspective, both are typically important. And that is the challenge. It's a challenge faced by Roosevelt when people didn't want him to get into World War II. That's their problem over across the ocean. It's always somebody else's issue to deal with. But usually, in some way, it falls to the resolute desk to take a major role.
Well said. I mean, I think that that's undeniable, that the domestic and international priorities are always being balanced and always have to be handled. All right, I've kept you over time. Thank you for indulging my questions, and we had a lot to talk about. So, Gary, look for some coffee soon, and we always appreciate your contributions here on Mondays. Really something I look forward to. Thanks, pal.
Mark, have a great rest of your show.
Yeah, Gary Dietrich, everybody. Right on, right on. By the way, Gary is brought to us by Bill Campbell. He's at Remax Gold. If you're relocating into or from Northern California, Bill Campbell is your guy. Highly respected real estate professional, and Bill can be reached so easily. You can text him, call him at this number, 530-448-7474, 530-448-7474. Bill Campbell at Remax Gold.
The Mark Thompson Show.
It was great. I loved it.
How would you handle this? We could try ignoring it, sir.
Morning.
You cannot say you love your country. Where are my weed smokers at?
Stay at home and get baked.
Right on, everybody. Right on. I wonder if we could shoehorn in here a little news. And then I've got John Aravosis coming in. He's a journalist, a civil rights advocate. He's insanely popular with the TikTok kids. And he is a Washington insider. So I love talking to him about what's going on right now in Washington regarding so many of these things. So we'll get to Kim in a second. Jim Slayton with a $5 super chat says the threatening Trump letters go out today. That these are the tariffs that he's talking about. That's what Jim's referring to, the letters. I've lowered my expectations from 90 deals in 90 days to just 1 in 4 years. Yeah, he doesn't, Trump is all show and not a lot of go. So the show was we're going to make all the deals, and the phone wasn't ringing. He ends up with a couple of deals. Great Britain, he's kind of got one sort of in Vietnam. And the way he got the Vietnam deal, of course, is because they greenlit his resort that they've already broken ground on, and another high-rise development in Vietnam as well. That's a Trump property. So, I mean, it's nice to know our government is open for business. Lucy McAllister with a $20 super sticker. My favorite McAllister with a shout out and $20. Come on.
Big shout out.
Yeah, it's a big shout out, I think. Right on. Mike Ekstrom with a $20 super sticker. Who are you people? Bravo for stepping out on this post 4th of July show and super stickering and super chatting. Love you. They're live. Kelly Malloy with a $1 super chat or super sticker, and Croquet Film with the same. Thank you, Croquet and Kelly. Harry Magnan, Trump voters didn't know him any better. I get it, Harry Magnan. Thank you. Harry's got that, the post 4th of July hangover. Louis says, hope you don't mind the pause on Doom Talk. Thank you, Matt Cameron of Pearl Jam, for 27 years of thunderous drumming excellence. Enjoy your retirement. Luis with a $5 super chat, and shout out to Matt Cameron. Carrie said, feel better, Mark. Thank you, someone caring about the fact that I'm in searing pain right now. My back is killing me.
Aw.
Only Carrie cares about it. Don't give me that awe stuff, Kim.
Poor Mark.
You know what, Kim? Of all the people,
Kim, how are you?
As a mother, you'd think that you'd have some sympathy, but you don't.
I
You don't.
do.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
You just
no.
don't get it, do
You
you?
don't get it.
You
You don't
don't.
get the kind of pain that I'm working through.
Do you need me to apply a cold compress to your
I
forehead?
need you to apply a little quiet while I read this. Carrie, feel better, Mark. So that's a chit. You've been chitted. So appreciate you. Hang on a second. Feel better, Mark. So appreciate you, Kim, Tony, and Albert. You see, you were being appreciated there, and you were interrupting.
Yeah.
You help keep me informed, says Carrie.
That's nice,
Thank
Carrie.
you. Yes, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate that. Yes, I'd say Noah had a hand in this, said Harry. Harry is really cranking them out. Thank you, Harry, for the $5 super chat. Yes. Big Tuna, $10 super chat says, Mark and friends, watch documentary Bad Faith. It explains the threat on our democracy that we're experiencing at this time in history. Also, look into the Council for National Policy and Paul Weyrich. All right. If you'll put that to the side, I will do all those things.
Mm-hmm.
Luis says, MAGA crime lord Biden and the Dems weather manipulating machine targeted Texas and caused the floods. But James Coomer is launching an investigation. Yeah. Thank you, Luis, for the
so
super
weird.
That
Did
is
you-
what is being alleged, actually.
It's crazy.
It sounds
Marjorie
like a
Taylor
joke, but
Greene
yeah, exactly.
has instituted legislation to make it against the law to manipulate the weather. Like, you can't make it up. You really can't make this up.
Yeah, it's positively insane. It's positively insane.
Is that a weather manipulator, Tony?
Yeah.
Yeah, is that what that is?
I feel like I need a palate cleanser before John gets here. Can I do a little, can I do a palate? I was going to get Kim's news, but instead I feel like I could do a palate cleanser. What should I do?
You can have news or you can have law and disorder, your choice.
I'll leave it to the
Dealer's
audience.
choice.
Yeah. News or law and disorder, everybody. What would you like? I'll take the first few reactions.
Yes, please.
Yes, please is not an
Yes, please to what? News. I got a news. Mm-hmm.
All right. I got an L&D.
Oh,
Turbo News, says Rich.
okay.
News. All right. News it is.
All right, then.
All right. Smash the like button if you would.
Smash
You'll
it with your iron rod.
forever be rewarded in the life after. Kim's news. And then John Aravosis joins. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Oh, on the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. More than 90 people dead following a catastrophic flooding in central Texas. In Kerrville, 48 adults and 27 children are dead, with 10 children and 1 adult still missing from an all-girls camp. Officials say hundreds of first responders are working search and rescue operations in the area. And President Trump has signed a major disaster declaration for Kerr County. He may visit this area on Friday. Trump also says imports from Japan and South Korea will be hit with 25% tariffs starting next month. He sent letters to a number of countries with take it or leave it tariff offers and shared the letters to Japan and South Korea on Truth Social. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says tariffs that were paused for negotiating will take effect August 1st for those 12 countries. Bessent says he also expects to see several big announcements on trade deals soon. Meanwhile, stocks have been trading lower as a result. It's a newly leaked memo revealing efforts from former President Biden's advisors making a push for an early debate date. The 6-page memo obtained by Politico was dated April 15th of 2024. It shows advisors believed it was important to move forward with participating in debates as early as possible to reach the widest audience possible. Biden's performance during the now infamous June 27th debate eventually led to his decision to end his re-election campaign weeks later. Trump calling for Elon Musk's plan to launch a third political party ridiculous. Trump saying Sunday the United States has always had a two-party system. The tech billionaire announcing his America Party on X Saturday, claiming when it comes to bankrupting our country with waste and, he said, graft. He must have meant grift. We live in a one-party system, not a democracy. Today, President Trump is expected to meet with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House. Trump continuing to press the Israeli leader about a ceasefire agreement between Israel and the militant group Hamas to end the war in Gaza. Trump has said recently both are close to a deal, saying one could happen this week. The White House would like Democrats to tone down their rhetoric against ICE and Border Patrol agents. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt challenging Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of New York and other Democrats to meet with border agents. Leavitt called the agents honorable men and women who are simply enforcing U.S. law. She acknowledged the White House is aware that a man opened fire at a Border Patrol facility in South Texas today. It was a mass shooting in Philadelphia yesterday, left multiple people dead, at least 10 injured. A total of 13 people shot. 3 of those victims have died. Police say they were at the exact block Saturday night, responding to complaints of loud music and large gatherings when the shooting broke out. The gunfire broke out in that area. In California, 6 months after the January wildfires, Los Angeles County leaders are releasing what they call bold steps to help property owners rebuild. What's being called the LA County Forward Blueprint for Rebuilding is under review. It is expected to be released in the coming weeks. The proposal includes expedited property tax relief, waiving building codes that don't affect life and safety, such as requirements for rooftop solar and other so-called efficiency standards. It also includes speeding up permitting and inspections, financial help, and making sure there are enough contractors to do the work, among other items. So, law enforcement agencies in Los Angeles cracking down on the other side of retail theft, the fences. Thieves sell their hauls to these fences, who then resell the stolen items in brick and mortar stores and online, or on sidewalk stalls and pop-ups. The LA Times reports a sting operation at a downtown LA bodega recovers several alleged stolen items and $1 million in cash inside a safe. Oh, crack down on that. This report sponsored by CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. The secret code, if you will, is Mark T, no spaces. It gets you 10% off your order at CoachellaValleyCoffee.com, where there is the best coffee and the best tea
having it right now
in the world. Organic from women-owned farms. You can't do better than CoachellaValleyCoffee.com.
We should send Aravosis some of our coffee.
We should do that
Got
too.
some good coffee. He can rep for it, rep in the D.C. area. We can hit both coasts at the same time. Yeah.
I'm Kim McAllister. This is The Mark Thompson Show.
Right on, Kim.
The Mark Thompson Show.
It was great. I loved it.
How would you handle this? We could try ignoring it, sir.
Morning.
You cannot say you love your country.
Where are my weed smokers at?
Stay at home and get baked.
Right on, everyone. Great to have you here. The stay at home and get baked always makes me laugh. I don't know. I just can't get over it. So excited to have this guy. He is, in our house, he is the stuff of legends. We watched the Aravosis report with great interest, and he was working overtime with this bill, legislative passage last week. He's a Democratic political consultant in his history, also history as a journalist, as a civil rights advocate, brilliant blogger, and an attorney who lives in the belly of the beast in Washington, D.C. How about it for John Aravosis, everyone?
Hey, Mark.
Great to see you, my friend.
Yep.
All right, let's start with this bill and I think it's LBJ to a power of 10, the way Trump has the GOP cowed to the point that they not only got this behemoth, this mess filled with all this toxic stuff from a debt standpoint, from a policy standpoint, et cetera, not only get it across the finish line, but they did it by essentially getting rid of any debate on it and making it to his desk by the July 4th deadline, which is completely an artificial deadline that Trump made up.
Yeah. I mean, in a way, I'm not surprised because, and we've talked about this before, Republicans have given up on pretty much anything they claim to have believed in, right? I mean, it used to always be faith, family, and freedom. And Donald Trump, faith, give me a break, right? Family, give me a break. Freedom, not really. I mean, he's anti-China, but of course he's pro-Russia. He likes a lot of our enemies. He doesn't believe in, he didn't believe in sort of defending freedom abroad and using military force. And suddenly with Iran, it now is totally turned on its head. And at the same time, they're all going, oh, Iran, yay. Now, I say Iran, yay, personally, but for a MAGA Republican to laud Trump for getting involved in a foreign military involvement in the Middle East and potentially starting a war, that's like literally what he ran on stopping, right? But now he does it and they all go, yay.
There was about a day and a half, John, where I felt as though MAGA, at least portions of the movement, were turning on Trump because of that, which you've just described. But boy, that was like a fever dream. It went away quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they were freaking out about the debt, but even the debt thing, Republicans pretend to care about the debt. They never really have. They've always busted the budget. And you can Google this. I always tell people, check Google, don't listen to me, but they always do their tax cuts. Their tax cuts always cost more than they say. This one is literally twice the cost of a normal tax cut that even the Republicans do. It's adding 3 to 4 trillion to the national debt. We know this. They don't care. I mean, some of them held out till the end and then they caved like they always do. Medicaid, they tend not to care about Medicaid, but they've got, guess what? A lot of the poor states just happen to be Republican states. There's a price to be paid when you vote based on, family values or whatever the heck you want to call it, and you don't actually care about whether this guy is providing anything to your state. These states tend to be very poor. So they can't afford to lose Medicaid. Well, they're about to lose it, which, Medicaid is our health program for the poor, right? But they don't care. I mean, I don't know when this cult will ever, whether the fever in the cult will ever break, or whether the man can just do anything he wants and they'll go, yes, sir, yay.
Well, this is a political document too, don't you think, John Aravosis? Is interesting to me that it was crafted such that the cuts that you're talking about around Medicaid, they don't really kick in until after midterms. So they won't even be felt by a lot of these constituencies that will ultimately be losing that support.
Well, I will say this, that is not an unusual thing to do. I mean, having worked in politics forever, you do try to craft things so they don't come into a force until after the election. You try to do things like they bought off Alaska, because the Alaska Senator Republican didn't want to join on. They gave her whatever special provisions that will help her state. That's just typical. I mean, it just really is. So I'm not upset about it in the sense of it being so weird. To me, it's just, I mean, it's funny too, I guess to some degree, I'm not surprised again, because this is what they do. They pass massive tax cuts. They don't care about what it does to the, and by the way, are we surprised that Republicans are trying to stick it to the poor? Not even the poor. I'm going to probably lose at least $1,200, probably more in terms of the subsidies I get to help me pay for my Obamacare. My Obamacare premiums are $1,500 a month, a little more than that. That's the premium. So I get a subsidy. Well, I'm going to lose at least $1,200. I think it's going to be $2,000 to $3,000. And I mean, I have a nice apartment, but I'm not rich. I'm not, I qualify for the subsidy. I mean, and this is what they're doing to people. They did this tax cut as always for the rich, but this is not news to us, right? And this is what maybe bothers me more is we're once again going, no S Sherlock. He's doing exactly what Republicans have always promised to do. They're gutting the government. They're gutting programs, not just for the poor, but programs for anybody but rich people. Elon Musk is shocked that they're gutting energy programs. Oh, really, Elon? Really? Trump doesn't like alternative energy? He's for oil? Who knew? Oh, wait, you did. But you still supported him with $300 million and got him elected.
And by the way, Trump says the same thing. Hey, he was never a fan of he knows I was never a fan of the EV subsidies. I mean, it's sort of like.
He wasn't.
Yeah.
EV subsidies are a big deal. Cars.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was Elon's whole weird thing. Trump hated electric cars, just like he hates, the shower doesn't give enough water. I got to flush the toilet 3 times. And you're like, dude, nobody has to flush their toilet 3 times. Like that was the 1970s.
Right. No,
Like that's not your shower. Take the little thing out and your shower will be fine. I mean, naughty little secret. But Elon knew damn well that Trump was anti-electric vehicle, was anti-energy. Trump claimed that windmills cause cancer. I mean, just any ridiculous thing. And suddenly Elon, I missed this one because I tried to take off on the weekend. Elon announced on Saturday he is going to form a third party, a political party, which is like good because at this point, Elon's followers are not Democrats.
Well, I would say this is interesting, John. We're talking about this in the first hour, how that will all come together. It probably comes together with him targeting maybe 4 to 6 races where he pours a lot of money and maybe even influences outcome. And maybe with that, John, does he get a little momentum or,
True.
Well,
Well, he could do, I mean, he tried it in Wisconsin, and the Wisconsin, I'm from Chicago, by the way, so we say Wisconsin. If you don't notice my accent, it comes. That's one of the tests for Midwesterners. Ask him to say Wisconsin, and you're going to go, "Oh yeah."
I didn't know that.
Oh no, very much so. We always do it with a nasal O, even though like I've been out east forever. It's Wisconsin. Anyway, it's very fun. Trust me, now you know. But no, the Wisconsin Supreme Court race, Elon dumped like. Was it 20 million or 100
I thought
million?
28 million is what I saw.
28 was it? Yeah. And he lost. Now, that doesn't mean he can't find another race and still use it. In other words, Elon could do third party, but it could be running against Democrats. That would not be as good. Having said that, Elon's followers right now, I kind of wonder. Well, no, okay, let me rephrase this. His followers don't tend to be Democrats. We can't stand him anymore. That doesn't mean he can't dump a lot of money into an election and buy a lot of ads. Because then you don't know it's Elon. It's Committee for a Responsible Government who bought the ads, right? So I don't want to dismiss the risk of this. It still is good in a way because he's not saddled up to Trump. There's no way he's going to give the 100 million he promised to Trump's political organization. That's not going to happen now. So it's like, haha.
I wonder what, as I mentioned, once Trump became president, we talked about it here, the power shift was dramatic, right? Because Musk had all this power and heft associated with his wealth and his ability to influence the social media dialogue regarding the election and that sort of thing. Anyway, it all shifted when Trump became president. Now, Trump has control over his government contracts and all the rest. He let him run roughshod over the government, dismantle everything from USAID to EPA, get over to the IRS. He let him into the Treasury, all of these places, right? But after that little party was done, Trump still has all the power here. So as we talk about a Musk third party, and as Musk, I know, wants a flex of some kind, it's hard given the fact that the guy you're going up against has control over all your government money.
Yes. The interesting thing with Elon, and actually I feel like we need to do a deeper dive. I mean, meaning I've got to do my own research on this more, but I hate Elon. I would love us to cut off all of their money. The problem is SpaceX is so important, to the U.S. space program, to NASA and everything, that it's not clear. They've got a monopoly, it seems, and it's not clear that any other competitor even comes close. Same thing with Starlink, which is their satellite internet they've got that you can have all over the world. Nobody else comes close to what they've got. So that I don't know. Trump is happy to screw somebody over by cutting off their contracts, but whether even Trump would be stymied because they'd say, Mr. President, like literally we're going to end the space program for the next 5 years if we cut off Elon. So I wonder about that, whether how much wiggle room there is to actually punish Elon, or whether there's just literally no way.
Yeah, you're right. SpaceX really is where the shoe pinches for the U.S. in its relationship to Elon. And
but Starlink too. Pentagon likes Starlink. I mean, they do have that aspect as well. And at least from what I hear, there's nobody else that does it as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. We were looking at different ways to handle broadband from the studio, et cetera. And because we were having some stability problems. It might have been software related, but anyway, I mentioned it because it was against that backdrop. We're sort of reviewing things, and the tech guy who came out said the best, and he's not with Starlink, he's with the guys we have, the cable company. Right. He said the best, most stable internet is Starlink.
Oh, that's interesting.
Like, wow, that's he said it's not the fastest, right? I said, but it's the most stable.
Right. Yeah.
So you realize that, and then of course Musk was given a bunch of rural districts. Starlink was now tasked with providing broadband access to them during the Trump honeymoon period. I don't know how that's going to work
That's
out
interesting.
ultimately. Yeah.
Let's, and I'm surprised Republicans, well, no, they care if those rural districts are in their districts, right? If they're in Republican states, then they're going to care. They may not like that Elon's getting it. He clearly, Elon and he, which is great, but I sort of assumed Elon and Trump tried to bury the hatchet, but Elon was so nasty, wonderfully so, but Elon was so, once you accuse the other guy of basically, sexual trafficking of children, which is what Elon was accusing. I mean, that's what that was about, right? Mentioning Jeffrey Epstein, all this crap. It's like stuff I can't say on TikTok, but you can't even say that on TikTok or my show would be banned.
Oh, is that right? Wow.
Oh my God. You may have noticed I even hesitated and was very careful with my language of how I even say this. TikTok. Oh, so yes, I've learned I've learned what it's like to live in China.
Well, yeah, we all have the overlords.
Oh, well, that's what I call the evil overlords. But Elon accused, said, the secret files of Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, who was, convicted child sex trafficker, pedophile, whatever the hell he was, and clearly suggesting that he meant that Trump had diddled with children or young underage girls or whatever. That's what he meant. How do you say that and say, well, let's bury the hatchet?
Right. How do you walk that back?
No, well, also, the other thing is maybe you walk it back because they clearly convinced Trump, you need this guy. He's an ass, but you need him. But at the same time, deep down, Trump is like, okay, maybe, but I hate him and he's never getting foot near me again. And that's why Elon's starting to complain about the bill. Trump just went, so I don't know, maybe they can bury the hatchet again, but it's still going to be such a thinly sourced truce because you don't forgive somebody like that. And good. I mean, Elon's as much of a jerk as Trump is, which is great.
Yeah, it's right. You can't. Isn't there a way they both can lose? Is what you're
well, Tesla stock is down 7% today because of supposedly because of Elon announcing the political party he's going to do. Because also, remember, Elon, he's so Trumpian in some ways. Elon was going to give up on politics and I'm going to go back to Tesla because the stock's not doing well. And then he attacks Trump and announces a new political party. It's like he's 12 years old.
Well, he is. He is just by virtue of all of his social media posts, you can tell he's on something or is something. It's more than just some spectrum-y thing. He is being fueled by something else.
I think and again, who knows about autism or whatever the hell it is, but not autism, or it's a spectrum of autism, whatever the hell it's called. I have a hard time accepting that. This guy, I remember last year, because I was trying to show my cousin who's big in business, all the stuff Elon does online. And he was sharing boob jokes, literally jokes, but it's important to almost call them boob jokes. That's literally what they were. It was like a 13-year-old boy sharing jokes about women's breasts. It was bizarre. And he does that a lot. And I mean, I think he's messed. I don't think he's I don't think he has an excuse here of, he's autistic or whatever. I think he's kind of just messed up.
Yeah,
as we've seen, he is kind of a child.
And he's enabled by the money and power that he's accumulated. But
man of the world, right? Yes, sir.
Exactly, right? Exactly. And so, what a weird space, because he was the government for 3 months. He was going in and he dismantled government. I mean, it was it was a successful kind of horror show that he was perpetrating, and
did a huge amount of damage. Exactly. I mean, So no, I mean, I'm glad, again, anything with him and Trump fighting is good. This makes it, he's certainly not coming back into government. The Doge people are going to continue to do damage, but Elon probably single-handedly took down AID, our International Development Program, because Elon, he's an idiot. He believed all the conspiracy theories, but I think it might've been Elon himself. We may have talked about this last time. I did not fully appreciate the whole story of the conspiracy theory about AID until I ran into 2 women who worked for it in the park walking my dog, and they were, of course, getting laid off. Did you hear about this one?
No. Tell us about this.
Trump and Elon thought that our development program, our national aid program, was giving condoms to the terrorists in Gaza was because there's a town or a province in Mozambique called Gaza Province. I did not know that. I just knew the story was BS. There's a province called Gaza Province in Mozambique, and they assumed Gaza meant Gaza, and therefore we were giving condoms to terrorists. And it's like, no, we're giving condoms into like deep southern Africa where HIV/AIDS is still a problem, and it helps stop the spread of AIDS. It's not we want to help terrorists get their groove on, but Trump repeated this at the White House. Elon was the one, I think, who grabbed it and ran with it, because it's amazing to me like how he became successful, because he seems not very bright in many ways.
He says things in a kind of matter-of-fact way, and in a kind of he does it. He sprinkles some of that tech bro jargon on stuff.
Dude.
I mean, it really is wild to.
The only reason I'm here is because you are a friend.
Yeah, right.
No,
that was him in the Oval Office. Yeah, that's right.
Whatever. Yeah,
but
and his only child, he's got like 3 dozen children, and he shows up with one everywhere.
Yeah,
and I'm kind of like, okay, where are the other? He's got 13 or 14 at least. I love at least. The stories say there are reports that there are many more.
Yeah, I've seen 18, but
where are they?
If you can't use kids as props, John, what can you do?
Hey,
I mean, come on.
I live in Washington, please, right? Exactly. Hey, come on. No, I mean, and God knows we've used kids as props in politics too. I mean, I don't fault him for that. I just find it weird that it's like the same kid. You've got 14 kids, and the same one you keep showing up with. Where are the other ones?
Yeah, sure. Shouldn't they get to audition for other events? I mean, besides the Oval, I mean, there's a bunch of others that you want to.
So weird.
Let's just talk quickly, because again, you are a Washington insider in the sense that you, I think, can read the tea leaves. And,
I am.
And this is it's a different political world now, though, I'd say. And you certainly have seen the way Washington has changed. This kind of total fealty to Trump and the Trumpian message. I think the enabling of a lot of hate. This is my own view and vision of things. This party has taken a lot of things that were understood to be shameful and made them okay. I mean, against immigrants. I mean, kind of the wanton, harsh treatment of people as they're scooped up at Home Depots and at high school graduations. This is loathsome to me. And yet somehow in Washington, it's all just being handled as, I don't want to say business as usual, but as part of a legitimate agenda.
It's not like Republicans have ever been nice in recent memory. I mean, really, I left the Republican Party in the early 1990s because of their anti-gay stuff. It's not like they've been nice. I mean, back then was Jerry Falwell and Pat Robertson and all the crazy religious right people. And, your younger followers won't know who I'm talking about. Those our age and up know exactly who I'm talking about. They had the most hateful, bombastic, evil people running the party back then. Jesse Helms, all these. I mean, so like, this is not new. I mean,
they say that natural disasters of all sorts were the result of some sin that was being corrected by the divine.
They let people with AIDS die in the 1980s because, Reagan, they had HIV and Reagan was like, they're gay. I mean, so like, this is not new. It's new that they're focusing so much of the ire on immigrants. It's new that they're focusing so much of their hate on trans people. That's new. Meaning, used to be gay. And then we sort of went through this lull where, weirdly enough, Republicans got over the gay and lesbian thing. And then somehow it was like, ooh, trans. And somebody thought, ooh, actually, this is illustrative. Not only did somebody in Trump's circle or whatever think, and Republicans overall, hey, we can bash the trans people. This is useful, right? Politics. But they got away with it. I mean, the gay lesbian thing, literally, because I worked in those politics, we got to the point where we no longer became an issue, because it was considered almost poor form. Republicans liked us, and we were normal people.
Well, everybody had a gay hairdresser or a brother, right?
But true. But all of a sudden, somebody, and this is where Trump excels, somebody said, let's push the envelope and see if we can bash that LGBT thing again. This time, let's do trans people. And I'm sure somebody said, oh, you can't do that. Like, society accepts them now. And they did it and they got away with it. So then they do more. And that's what worries me. And I think you kind of said this leading into this question. That's what worries me overall is this, in politics, it's called like the Overton window, which basically means sort of the window of what's acceptable. And even in politics, right? Like, well, you can do this, but you can't do that. And Trump has expanded the window from personal foibles, personal morality to breaking the law to profiting off the presidency. I mean, selling all these products while he's president is disgusting.
It really is crazy.
But it's all, and like you said, the legislation going after immigrants to the degree he is, everything is expanded to this going after the debt. I mean, what I mean is adding to the debt when Republicans used to refuse to. Everything's which wasn't acceptable is now becoming acceptable. And I don't know whether that comes crashing down on him and them, or he just gets away with it. And we hope to God at some point the voters go, okay, no.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something you would think that one might wait, hopefully for, because he and this party really just barely got into power. But that said, they're not big ones for giving up power. And I worry this is
maybe not literally.
Yeah, and exactly.
In a few years.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
so
I mean,
we're skipping ahead in the movie, and you and I will speak, I hope, a bunch of times before this.
Yeah.
But I kind of see that moment where there are going to be things done to try to retain power.
Of course. Well, I mean, the thing is, it's hard because people say to me, do you think there's going to be elections? Will he try to stop the election? And part of you wants to go, well, stop panicking. It's not like he can stop elections. But then again, he totally tried to steal the last election, and then he tried to violently overthrow the government.
Exactly.
If he's trying to violently overthrow the government and their goal was to kill the vice president, you don't think this guy would try to stop an election? I mean, I would say stopping an election is less than violently overthrowing a government.
Right.
So,
exactly.
But you don't want to be paranoid. But having said that, I tell people there is literally nothing this man would not do if he could get away with it.
That's precisely right.
So
I think that's good advice.
It doesn't mean they're doing it, but he's certainly capable of doing everything. You just have to temper that a little bit with, has he gotten to it yet?
Yeah, very well put. I mean, I think that contextualizes it well. I have those same anxieties.
Yeah.
Hey, John, we're such big fans in this house of your work, and I look forward to your continued success and visits here. John Aravosis does the Aravosis Report. TikTok, it explodes on TikTok. He is he's the ruler of TikTok. So go talk with him.
Exactly.
Mother effers.
Aravosis on TikTok. You can find me there. YouTube as well, different address, but you Google me, you'll find me.
Yeah. We found you on TikTok, and you're right. Now we've followed you across the social media universe. There it is, the Aravosis Report at Aravosis. Thanks, John.
All right.
See you
Thanks,
next time.
guys.
Okay,
Thanks, Mark.
my friend.
All right.
All the best. Yeah.
Feel it in your soul. The Mark Thompson Show.
I love my John Aravosis. Very, very cool. I've switched mugs of coffee, Kim, just so you know. I went with the classic. This is just.
Did you switch midstream? Or have you been drinking out of this all morning?
I drank out of the other one.
Oh.
Then I was all the way down, and then I asked if I could get another cup of coffee, and I got one.
And the staff came to bring you more coffee?
My staff brought me another...
Albert, thank you.
Yeah, another Albert brought me a...
Yeah.
So good. Tomorrow, just thinking about it because I was drinking from the coffee mug, Courtney may stop through. She has redone our merch stuff.
Okay.
There's some kind of fun merch things, and she'll come through and talk about them. And by the way, I went to the merch site, and some of the merch is available. You can see it like right under the videos on YouTube and stuff. GetMarkMerch.com. GetMarkMerch.com. It's not, I want you to be clear, a moneymaker for us. We don't do it because we make money on it. In fact, we choose, they give you these choices. We choose the lowest amount that they'll legally let you take, the lowest amount on all of our stuff. So those are the already discounted numbers. So we don't, it's more of a fun thing for us. And you'll see some of the stuff she's put in there, really fun. And we've ordered a bunch of it. And as I said before, I have to pay for it too. And you'll find, some of the classic stuff, t-shirt, etc. But you'll also find things like yoga mats and pajamas and like really some
yoga
sort of
mats,
funky stuff. Yeah.
Oh.
So encourage you to knock around in there just for the hell of it. And as I say, Courtney will be on tomorrow with a minute or two on what's happening with it. GetMarkMerch.com is where all the merch is. So,
The Mark Thompson Show.
Let's do it. The first Monday of every month, we bring her on. She of the Dawn Watch Facebook page, which is incredibly popular. She also puts out the Dawn Watch newsletter. I just received it. And it's sometimes it tells me, in fact, I want to say 90% of the time, it tells me about things that I had no idea about. 10% of the time, she'll have something and I'll go, oh, I was reading about that also. So this is one of those 10%. But she is a wonderful force for good in this world of animal welfare. Karen Dawn will join us as we have a word about animals.
Now, a word about animals on the Mark Thompson Show.
And here she is from Dawn Watch, Karen Dawn.
Good to see you, Mark.
DawnWatch.com and Dawn Watch on Facebook. And today you mentioned something, at least I know in part, this is something you wanted to speak of, that I think hits all of us as something that we cringe when we think about, and that is the use of sweet creature animals in lab testing. But what happens to them after the lab testing is sort of what you, I think, want to focus on today.
Yes and no. Yes, in that we've talked before about animal testing and about trying to get animals retired, bills to get them retired afterwards. At the moment, it's not so much after the animal testing because the EPA is shutting down animal testing. And so it's not a matter of these animals are going to go through all these horrifying experiments and then, thank heavens, afterwards they won't be killed. They're going to be adopted. We've actually chatted about that in the past. Because the EPA is actually getting rid of animal testing. The New York Times had a front page story on Friday, which was about, the headline was about looking for adoptive parents for rats and zebrafish. So, and it's a complicated article. It's well worth reading. I've sent Tony a link, which I trust he'll add to the chat and the description of this segment on the website. But yeah, so it's not just a matter of something I've always fought for, which is, if we haven't actually killed these animals outright, let's please get them adopted rather than killing them because they're not useful test subjects anymore. This is a matter of what are we going to do with the animals who are not going to be used at all because the EPA is getting rid of animal testing. So on July 4th, this came out. By the way, huge thanks to your boldness in being willing to come out against fireworks, Mark. I mean, they are darn beautiful, but they are awful for animals. So I really appreciate that. But there was much to celebrate on July 4th, and that was this front page story in the New York Times talking about adopting out the animals from the Environmental Protection Agency who are not going to be tortured in experiments and killed during those experiments. So
is that, did you want to say more about that, or did you want me to?
I can certainly say more about that. I'm just used to you wanting to jump in and say something about it, but that's fine. I can happily say more about that.
Well, I mean, the only thing I'll just jump in and say, if it'll help, animate you in any way, I would say that also just I think it needs to be said. I mean, it was a victory to get rid of animal testing at the EPA, wasn't it? I mean, would you claim that a victory, or was that just the course of things? How did that happen?
It was massively, undoubtedly a victory. As far as it happened, the New York Times article goes, how it happened, the New York Times article goes into this a little bit. It's been a long campaign of pressure from groups. Without a doubt, leading the charge has been the White Coat Waste Project, because they started back in the first Trump administration pressuring the Trump administration to get rid of animal testing. They are conservatives who care passionately and deeply about animals, and decided, knowing their own side, decided that the best way to go to appeal to conservatives on this topic was to appeal to their pocketbooks. That's why it's called white coat waste, as we are wasting a heck of a lot of money on this cruel stupidity. So they went after animal testing during the first Trump administration. They got a commitment that it would be phased out by 2035. That got rolled back during the Biden administration. I want to talk about that just a little bit, about the whole bipartisan nature on this particular topic. And the Trump administration has committed to it again. So on the one hand, this is such beautiful news that with all the many things one might be concerned about, as far as what the Trump administration is doing, one of the silver lining is what's happening in the world of animal testing. How that came about, it's interesting. Something you and I spoke about recently, maybe a month ago or a few months ago, it's a few shows back now, was that cruelty to animals, animal testing, this has always been the surprisingly bipartisan issue in Congress, in all legislatures. People on both sides care deeply about this issue. It's been bipartisan, but largely ignored. So when these issues, animal issues, come to a vote, things go well for animals, but they rarely come to a vote because they're considered not to be that important. What has changed is that, as the New York Times article mentions, this has become a little bit of a right-wing cause. And to us, that can be a little bit sad that it's been aligned with the right. When you and I talked about Peanut and Fred, the squirrel and raccoon who were killed right on the eve of the election, you put it so beautifully when you said that you were sorry that you felt that the Democrats had ceded that ground, that Peanut and Fred became a right-wing issue, and Elon was tweeting about it and Trump was mentioning it, and the Democrats, rather than joining in, they ceded the ground. And I am a little bit concerned that with the idea that anti-animal testing having become a right-wing issue rather than, as it always has been, a bipartisan issue, that will cause a lot of mainstream media that tends to lean left to pull back on it and even push against it. And I personally had an experience with that with the Washington Post recently, and I think I shared with you that I had a letter in the Washington Post backing up a piece by Jane Goodall and Mark Bekoff against dog labs, about the cruelty of dog labs. And I wrote in thanking the Washington Post for that piece and talking about how horrible those labs truly are. And when I got back the edited version, which thankfully was run by me before they just published it, it had been edited to the point where my own point was somewhat unrecognizable. And the letters editor had put in language suggesting that dog labs are really necessary, but we have to treat the dogs more nicely before we torture them to death. And I was pretty shocked by that and ran it by a few other activists and found out that other folks had similar experiences with the letters department at the Washington Post. And this was new. And we've kind of put it down to the alignment with the right against animal testing, making the left suddenly decide that, gosh, animal testing must be really necessary because we can't believe a single thing that comes from the right. And I have to say, Mark, given that having you as an ally is a blessing beyond belief, because you know a lot about this issue. I know you've read my book, which has a full chapter on animal testing, which the HarperCollins legal team went through with a fine-tooth comb, just talking about how unreliable it is and why it is so archaic. And I would never say that it never had its purpose and never had reason to be, as some activists will. But it is so past time for it to be phased out. No matter what side of the aisle you're on, it's time to recognize that. So I'm glad that with the White Coat Waste Project pushing the Republicans and doing so effectively, far more effectively than the left ever pushed the Democrats. I'm grateful to you, Mark, for being on board with this, even though, you know, you're not on board with most of what the Republicans are doing. So
yeah, well, thank you for saying that. I think that the you're right about the fact that everybody can jump on board as to how cruel the world of lab testing is. I mean, these creatures are either raised in this environment, so they never get out of this cage, and then they have, you know, these awful things stuck into them in spinal taps and all kinds of horror. I mean, it's not just, it's unimaginable. This stuff is unimaginable. Or they're plucked off the street. So either way, the sourcing of these creatures is inhumane. And then, of course, we all agree what happens to them in there is all inhumane as well. But what is interesting to me, and what I thought was the wrinkle in this, that you've just added another wrinkle to, which is the political wrinkle. But in this piece that I'd also read, that I saw in the New York Times, and you kind of made me sensitive to, you know, when media is picking up a story that is of interest to the world of, you know, animal welfare, you get this North Carolina EPA research campus, and since they're closing down, they are having to adopt out all of these creatures that have been part of these experiments or earmarked for their experiments. That is to say, you know, destined for those experiments. Some that have been in these experiments are carrying deadly viruses that will kill them, and other things that are part of the experiment. But others were just awaiting experimentation, and so they're perfectly adoptable. I mean, everything from zebrafish to labs, so Labradors, you know. So it's an extraordinary thing, and we will link to it under this video. But
what I love about the article is that it's actually focusing most on the rats, and for the actually head of Americans for Medical Progress, which is a pro-animal testing group, to acknowledge at the end of the article that rats make wonderful pets. That made my heart sing. So I don't know if they have Labradors there. I believe you if you say so. I know that particular, the EPA, it's mostly rats and fish.
Yeah, I meant that generically, whatever. But you're right. Maybe there's a lab, maybe not. But the rats are
up for adoption.
Are a real thing. And hey, back in the 70s, you know, it's a little before my time, everybody. But there was a movie called Willard with a rat, and then another movie, which is the sequel, called Ben. And Tony, you remember Michael Jackson got a Grammy Award for Ben, the theme. And that was his rat, his pet rat, that the lead character was connected to. Rats are beautiful pets. They anyway, so you can link to we'll link to it under this video, and you'll be able to find it.
This is extraordinarily good news, but on the newspaper front,
there's Ben. Thank you.
Those listening, Tony is showing us a photo.
He's coming back to avenge the death of Willard, and this time, no more Mr. Nice Guy. He's bringing his friends this time. Ben is, yeah. Willard was like really successful at the box office. I think Ben wasn't quite as successful, but Ben was the Grammy Award-winning song. Go ahead,
As
Karen.
we're talking about media coverage of this, Mark, I'm remembering from a few weeks ago when it first, started to come out that the Trump administration was getting rid of university research. The kind of coverage we were getting from the New York Times and the Washington Post was, oh, because Trump's shutting down all this research, all these animals they're being forced to be euthanized. They're euthanizing all of these animals because Trump's, shutting down the research. Whereas in truth, yes, a lot of the labs were choosing to euthanize their animals. And I do this because the animals were healthy, and it would have been a lot kinder to have put the effort into adopting them out. But all that meant was they were going to die faster and painlessly rather than being tortured to death over time. So what was upsetting was that, again, because this is now seen as a right-wing cause, we have the most awful slant on it coming from places like the New York Times and the Washington Post. And I would just ask your wonderful listeners and viewers to be aware of that, so that when they're, hearing stories about how awful that it is that the research has been shut down, to be aware of how much of this research is animal testing, and that some of these tests, we're still testing nicotine on animals. Last time I checked, which wasn't today, it might have changed, but last time I checked, there were still monkeys having nicotine being tested on them. So this is not stuff this is not all life-saving research being shut down. A lot of it is just cruel, needless, horrendous stuff.
Well, let me just say this as to button this out. The reason, because you may say, well, I don't understand. It's cruel, meaningless research. Why are they doing it? And now let me give you the answer. It's the Mark Thompson 101. If something doesn't make sense, 90% of the time, it's about money. And that is what is going on there. So there is an industry of animal testing, of suppliers of the tests, and the tests are not applicable, medical tests on medications, on drugs, not applicable from the animal kingdom to the human kingdom, even though I understand we're part of the same kingdom. We are animals as well. But my point is, you can't apply the results of that animal testing. It's a bizarre fact. You can't apply in terms of efficacy and safety to humans. Now, they try to apply it, but ultimately you're left with, well, we need human trials to establish toxic levels, safety levels, and also levels of efficacy. So it's all about money. And these universities are part of it. They have industries. There's an engine associated with all this animal testing. So that's why they talk about these various experiments to which Karen has referred, and she can say accurately, they're cruel, they're needless, and they're not even worth anything when it comes to medical evaluation.
And Mark, when you say that these drugs that they don't apply and that they're not useful, I'm sure there's folks who are skeptical about that, especially if they're reading the New York Times and the Washington Post, which is suddenly very, very, very skeptical about the idea of them not being useful because, the Trump administration is trying to get rid of them. So this is what I would say. If you have doubts about what Mark is saying, though I know your folks do trust you, Google penicillin and guinea pigs. Thank heavens penicillin was not tested on guinea pigs, or we would not have it, because it kills them. It causes some sort of crazy diarrhea, and it is lethal to them. So we have penicillin because, thank heavens, that particular drug wasn't run through guinea pigs. 99% of drugs that make it to human testing eventually don't make it to market because they don't work. It is, there was a time, I'm sure, that medical testing on animals was useful, but it's not anymore. But it is, as you made so clear, very big money. There's a very big industry built up around it. And it's interesting that the Trump administration isn't trying to ban animal testing all throughout the nation because, of course, Republicans do like big business, but what they're doing is getting it out of the government because they don't like the government spending lots of money, and there is lots of money in this industry. So, and
they're getting it out of the money, out of the government into the private sector. That's what they're doing. Exactly.
Well, but the good news is that once it's out of the government and out of the universities, then it will follow that it'll end up out of the private sector, because we no longer will just accept it as something that needs to be.
It certainly is a step in the right direction. That's absolutely true. And that's why it's really some good animal news on this day. Karen, thank you. I'm out of time though. God damn it.
Quickly.
Kim, I'm out of time, but I wanted to ask Karen to speak.
I blame you.
It's probably my fault. I wanted to get Karen's, if you could remind everybody of the importance of the big loss in the last month of the guy who wrote the book Diet for a New America.
John Robbins, absolutely. If folks don't know anything about John Robbins, please Google him. He changed the world with all of his waking people up as to what the factory farming industry. For folks who don't know, John Robbins was the heir to the Baskin-Robbins throne. And when he found out what his family's industry was doing to the planet, and also to animals on dairy farms, etc., he gave all that up and wrote this book. There's a very fun story that when his dad was dying, his cardiologist, having no idea it was written by his son, actually gave his dad this book to read because the cardiologist thought it would save his dad's life. So,
I didn't know that story. That's brilliant. Wow.
Yeah. There's a documentary I'm yet to see, but has come so highly recommended about Ocean Robins, I believe. So I think it's on Netflix. I'm sorry if I'm talking.
Oh, check it out. Ocean Robbins, I used to get his newsletter. I might still get it. I don't know. The son of John Robbins is Ocean Robbins. Yeah.
Apparently the documentary is excellent. And yes, losing John was a huge loss. And for those who think that the vegan diet isn't good for you and that's why he died, apparently I had no idea that polio, if you have it as a kid, it comes back and haunts you 6 decades later, and that's what.
Oh my God, yes, and that's what. Thank you for mentioning that. It was a polio-related thing that enveloped his body in the end, and he was unable to get it. But that's why there are friends of mine who received the polio vaccine. Bill Mann, who's a viewer of the show regularly, he talks about the fact that his polio has come back, even though he was able to get the vaccine. He got it sort of late as a kid, and. Anyway, but John Robbins, a massive loss and one of those transformational figures. And I just wanted to mention him.
Somebody worth knowing about. Yes.
Karen, thank you. You can find Karen Dawn at Dawn Watch, the Daily Animal World News Watch on Facebook. There's a big community there, and also at dawnwatch.com. And Karen, I look forward to next month. Thanks for always being there. There's your splash page. I always look forward to these conversations. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mark.
All right. That's a word about animals.
Join the flock again next time for a word about animals on the Mark Thompson Show.
Mm-hmm. Well, I could stay all day. The
Mark Thompson Show.
I'm standing here through searing back pain. Kim is completely unsympathetic.
I feel bad. I feel horrible about it. Did you
really
sleep?
I don't know.
Did you sleep wrong, or what happened to you?
Oh no, I got it. I was cleaning up cat pee and cat poop as I do.
What?
I know. I'm sorry. I'm being honest. I could have just said doing chores, but I wanted to bring you into the action.
Okay.
Yeah, and then
I've got the visual. Yeah, that's
it's
nice.
pretty brutal. So I'm riding on the Advil, baby. I'm riding on the ibuprofen today. America's drug. Tony?
Yes.
What do you have to say?
Thanks, Tony.
Oh, I exploded my knee one time stepping over my dog in the hallway of my house and just and had like a 6-month rehabilitation I had to do.
We should have used these stories in a word about animals. I'm just saying.
You need a heating pad or a hot water bottle or something.
Ice. I had some ice going last night, and I've been hitting. I thought I would be gummy time, says Rich. Yeah.
Maybe a little stretching, a little yoga.
Yeah, that would be good. Got to do stretches, says shadow producer Calvin Wong. Indeed. Aleve works better than ibuprofen. Isn't it the same? I didn't know that. Vanessa Pacheco says that.
Oh. You say Pacheco?
Ryder.
I say Pacheco.
No, I don't know if it's Pacheco or Pacheco. I don't know.
Pacheco. I think it's Pacheco.
All right. Pacheco it is. Jeez, Kim is unbelievable.
I know.
All right, Vanessa. If it's Pacheco, then you can Aleve, naproxen, and ibuprofen are both non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. Tony's brought this up, used for pain relief. But they differ in their duration of action and potential side effects. Ibuprofen, like Advil, is shorter acting, providing relief for a few hours, while Aleve, naproxen, is longer acting with effects lasting up to 12 hours.
Oh, you need to take
Aleve may be preferred for chronic pain conditions due to its longer duration, while ibuprofen is often recommended for acute pain. That's what I have is acute pain right now.
Yeah,
I was
but it's
going to
not
do
going
another hit. I don't know. This is very and now on the Pacheco, I was right. It's
No.
oh no. Were you
Read
right?
it. Pacheco, she says with an A sound.
Oh,
Pacheco.
so it's Pacheco, like almost like
Yeah.
Pachay.
Pacheco. Pacheco. Yeah.
And I had said Pacheco.
Mm-hmm.
You sure about that?
We have the tape. Rewind the tape.
I don't know.
It was wrong. It was stupid, and I'm trying to be a better person.
All right. Apparently. I will pray for your health and complete healing, says Chaplain Fred. Come on.
Thanks, Chaplain Fred.
Why can't you say stuff like that, Kim? You see how supportive Chaplain Fred is? He's going to pray for my health and complete healing. He didn't say I'm going to pray for you to feel better. He said, I'm going to pray for your complete healing. That's what we need more of around here. Complete healing. Not just feel better.
I'll send you some good vibes.
Why are you yelling?
No?
Hope you feel better soon, says Luis. Cat Daddy. Cat Daddy's kind of a cool thing, huh?
It is, actually.
Yeah, kind of Cat Daddy. I'm Cat Daddy. Where's our Superfly? It's better than ibuprofen. Isn't it the same? I didn't know that. Vanessa Pacheco. Aleve works better than ibuprofen. Isn't it Pacheco? I said Pacheco. Yeah.
Pacheco, yeah.
Thank you. This is where I wish that Vanessa Pacheco says that. Yeah, I got it. Pacheco. I said Pacheco. Yeah, I said it. Tony. Thank you.
Any
Tony.
opportunity to be right when it concerns
No, I mean,
you.
Tony.
Thanks, Tony.
All I would
blame
say.
you.
Did you do that, or did Tony call that up?
Tony
that had
did
to be Tony.
Yeah, it was
This
Tony.
is why it's bad to have Tony on the show.
Thanks, Tony.
Because if it were Albert, I would never have to worry about Albert going back and finding it. It's way too much work for Albert to do. But Tony, he'll have it in seconds because he loves getting that stuff. Jesus, heal Mark now. Thank you, Calvin. Thank you. Pray to all that is holy. I have a bunch of stuff I wanted to get to today that I didn't even get a chance to do.
We had a great law and disorder.
We're going to do the great law and disorder tomorrow. Tony, are you going to be here tomorrow?
I should be.
All right.
Thanks, Tony.
Something I don't know.
Kim, you'll be here tomorrow?
I should be here unless something happens to me.
Then we will do Law and Disorder tomorrow, and it is really special. Really special. I have... Oh, this is interesting. This is from Tex T-Rex, says, I live next door to John Robbins in Ben Lomond. I couldn't finish reading this book because it made me sick. I was mostly veg at the time, only eating fish. After this book, I became vegan. Wow. Diet for a New America. It was like the Silent Spring book was to DDT. It was truly transformational, and John Robbins was a remarkable guy and a tremendous activist. Cheryl says, possibly Vanessa's pronouncing her name the incorrect way, and you are right. I love the way Cheryl thinks. And
Cheryl.
I'm Cheryl Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
I love that. Yeah, did you ever think you might be pronouncing your last name the wrong way? See everybody tomorrow. Until then, bye-bye.